I don't think it's assigned yet either.
Oh, okay. That's why I said, hey.
We're just about
Well, that's
there.
it.
Gotcha. I thought you were just saying hey to me.
It is time. It is 6:30.
Yes, it is.
Say, if you ever paper signatures, just remember. It's how long they want parents to
Oh my.
Are we ready?
On Sundays when
It's not a very good selling point.
Ready?
it's the parents, it's not the kids. Kids are
Okay. Go ahead and call the USD 49 Board of Education meeting for Monday, May 8th to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Moved by Board Member Waddell, seconded by Board Member Lang. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is audience participation. And I think we have Sunflower Bank here to talk about their ABC program.
Thanks, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for letting us take a little bit of your meeting here. I've got no more than 45 minutes to an hour. Just kidding. Got about 2 minutes, but maybe. I just thought maybe I'd kind of enlighten you a little bit about what the program was that you had participated in and how the donation was figured. Sunflower Bank has just completed its 16th annual ABC campaign, and we'd made it a mission, or it is our mission, to create possibility for the communities we serve, and the ABC program was initiated to provide the needed resources for schools and students in our communities. And participating schools are benefit from the program in 3 ways. Sunflower Bank pays 5 cents per debit card credit transaction. I know that seems a little confusing, but it's using your debit card to make a credit transaction to the participating school of each customer's choice. And for each new account designating a participating school, we pay $50 to the school of their choice. Students enter a drawing, and if their name is drawn, they receive $10 for each A on their report card, and their school, if participating, receives a matching donation for the same amount. And so when you take each of those programs and combine them together, you come up with the amount we are dispensing today. This year, Sunflower Bank has donated over $102,000 to participating schools in Kansas, Colorado, and Missouri, bringing the 16-year overall contribution to $1.1 million. For the 2017 ABC campaign, Sunflower Bank's donating $8,229.55 to schools in Ellis County, and of that, we're donating $4,721.80 to USD 489. Just want to thank you for your participation, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve you and your students. Did anybody have any questions?
I apologize, Mr. Briney, didn't end up introducing you. Mike Briney, who is the president of our local Sunflower Bank and a regional Sunflower Bank. And
Might have
thank
been
you.
good if I'd have said that as well. But anyway, thanks for letting me spend some time, and I was wondering if I could, I've got the checks with me. Who can I hand the checks to?
Well, probably to Lance is probably the
Thank you very
person.
much, Mike. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
You take a
Yeah, I want to take a picture of me so there's proof that I did it.
Right.
Over here. So it's real.
Yeah, there's 2 checks there. One is for the account opening part. Thank you very much. And the other portions of it. Thank you.
You can just email it. Okay, thanks, she got the best of you there.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Wanda, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. See ya.
Bye.
Russ out there by himself. Russ sits alone.
Russ is fine. He's right where he needs to be, right back there. Where's it at?
I know.
I don't know where it's at.
It's on new business. You can not do that.
Is that the replacement bus?
here for the replacement bus? New business
He
day?
is.
Can we move him
Russ, we can
up
move
or
that up.
not move him up?
Do you want to come up now? Okay.
Let's do that for Russ.
We'll go ahead and
That'd be
move
great.
up to, do the, move to item 9, new business, and go over discuss the purchase of the replacement bus for the Head Start program through Early Childhood Connection.
Let's do this. No. Okay. I ended up having Donna and Russ wanting to talk to Tracy and myself a couple weeks ago. And in the conversation, they were sharing that it's been a really collaborative effort over the last few years of working to have the busing that's necessary for Head Start. Head Start preschool has utilized some of their own funds in the past, and they had fun describing how we own half a bus and they own half a bus one particular time. But two of the short buses, two of the small buses, which were they're sisters, they're the same bus, but one of them now has some serious engine problems and they're not able to use it. Well, they're making do to the end of the year, but they're very concerned of starting up next year. And in that process was asking the possibility of being able to purchase, locate and purchase another bus in preparation for next year. As they worked on it, it was somewhat of a money item at first when they were talking, but before it was over, both of them had almost all the money between the two of them in funds that Russ did not utilize completely when he bought the other buses this year, and money that was still available with Donna's funds. Together, it almost covers. There would still have to be 10,000, maybe 15 at the most, but that would come out of our capital outlay. But I do feel that it's a necessity. We end up relying upon this program of having the Head Start, the preschool program, and they end up having for us to utilize the matched monies between the two of them, and then some more money that's put in to make this happen. It would be so much better to use that bus even through the day, not just in the morning and at the end of the day, but also within the day. Sometimes Russ was explaining that there's a need for us to use a bus for just 8 students. And sometimes that's not, or 10, and it's not the best to use a big bus. And it may be a few too many to use a Suburban. So it really, a small bus and having the accessibility to that would be very helpful as well. So it's not just a matter of thinking that it would be just used for the preschool. We'd be able to utilize it for more than that as well. So an awareness why it's such late date, why we're bringing it up at this time too is because it's still depending, it may take several months to end up getting the bus, even being in that mode of purchasing it. Now I went through that, Russ, if you would please share details that I may have missed with it as far as, and that's why we tried to put it forward. I think it was just 2 weeks, it was less than 2 weeks ago that we had talked on this, so.
The Head Start bus was not part of the 5-year purchasing plan. Back when Dean was here, and we decided not to use that as part of that purchasing plan. So, and if something came up, we would address it at the time. So, but yeah, it would be used for Head Start, and then it would be used throughout the day or weekends. Too much for Suburban. Suburban has maybe 10 kids, 11 kids. We're sending a big bus for that. We can send a smaller bus and be a little more economical. So we could get a lot of use out of a smaller bus, which we do use it now too. It's just one of them is broken down. It's a situation for transportation for Head Start. They want to continue that.
And he's able to fast track it too of having those bids that are available. I mean, that was included. You saw the 3 that are
From a
think it
budget
was,
standpoint.
yeah,
I
3
know
that were there.
Earlier, you had said, I thought that we were under a little bit from the buses and that. Where does this put us along that?
I was over $35,000 under budget
Okay.
this year when we bought the buses, so
Okay.
on my side.
And I think Donna has about 15 that she could put into it. So, I mean, it's getting close, but,
If we order a bus, it's about 3 to 4 months out. They make them as ordered, so there's a timeline if we place the order about how long it takes to get that bus.
right.
So
It
does
is-
that impact the capital outlay budget is 35 plus the additional 10?
Well, we kind of had that committed, though. The 35,000 was tagged onto the whole amount he was going to purchase the set of the vehicles he was going to. And he was able to get everything that he intended to for 35,000 less than what we kind of planned at the beginning of the year. So that was kind of intended. It'd be the 35 and the 15, so it'd be anything over the 50,000 would be something that would be what we really didn't plan for this year, for capital outlay. Yeah.
Okay.
Is the master's transportation the one you're looking at? Or
Yes, the low bid is the one that I was
Okay.
requesting for, yes.
So about $8,300 is additional is what we would.
Yeah. So it's really, and I know this is information first, because first time you've heard about it, so very well prepared that it'll be the next meeting to have a vote on that, and needs to be when it's an item probably such as this, but we need it to be purchased so we can have a delivery date that would really help us out right at the beginning of the school year. So,
And that would give you enough time for the next meeting if we were to go through and.
Yeah, if we still did it next month, yeah, they said 3 to 4 months, so that gets to the school, we can get by a month or two.
well, it'd be just
Out.
2 weeks. When's our?
22nd.
The 22nd, yeah.
Okay.
Will this be the only shorter bus that we have with child restraints in it?
There's another one.
Or there's another?
Yeah, they have, and there's a little concern with it too. That's a little bit why we're considering doing this, is the 2 of those buses are sisters. They're really identical. Whenever one had been having problems, the other seemed to have the same problem. There's a little concern by the mechanic that the other engine could start knocking at any time as well. Plus, they don't make the parts for this.
They're hard to get parts for.
Yeah.
It's a 15-year-old bus, and it's just, it's worn out. Definitely not worth the money to put back into it to try to.
That's why they weren't considering to try to fix or put another engine in it. That was not.
And the other half bus he's talking about is a larger school bus that's got the integrated seats. Integrated seats means it's flop-down seats and like a 5-point harness
Yeah.
Oh,
that the kids, Head Start, it's mandatory, we have to have for
Yeah.
Head Start kids. So they had bought half bus, the district bought half bus many years ago, and that's what they're calling half bus. So when we need to, we use that bus for Head Start also. And then we use it every other regular route.
Yeah.
Do you see us getting anything out of putting those on the auction?
We'll put it
or
on
anything
Purple
else?
Wave, with the engine issue, it'll get very little.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
bet, I don't know if they get a grand or two. Just when they buy it for parts.
Better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, I know we sold a couple this last week, 2,600 and 2,050. So we got this last week for the 2 buses. So it might be a little bit there.
And a reminder for individuals to know, we don't bus all of those children. Okay, it's the same process of 2.5 miles. So we bus those that are 2.5 miles, and that's why 2 buses are running, because you have that midday still, the half day, so you need the 2 at the middle of the day. That's partly what's going on as far as that schedule. And I know we're in process of gradually changing it. Probably 3 years from now, we'll probably have just full-day preschool for the Head Start requirements.
Any other questions for Russ on the Head Start bus? Thank you, Russ. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having that,
Thank
Russ,
you.
very much.
Okay, moving back to item 4, communications from other organizations. We have the Early Childhood Connections Policy Council minutes and the Early Childhood Connections Director's report. Was there anything to add on those, John?
I have nothing to add on
Okay.
that, no.
Next item on the agenda is school spotlights.
Yeah, the spotlights, really some excellent ones. Again, Bye Bye Birdie, I got the Jester nomination award again from on April 12th at Orpheum Theater in Wichita, which is 3 out of 4 years was able to succeed in that, and really quite a list of awards that were received. There's a list that's up that's available. It's really quite amazing how well they've done with that. We have a couple students who have letters of intent. Michael Reyes signed a letter of intent to play soccer at Allen County Community College, and Cecil Smith signed a letter of intent to play baseball at Manhattan Christian College. So again, a couple athletes, that's very exciting, them participating in that. Hayes Arts Council 2017, the Poetry and Prose. It's really amazing when you end up looking how many of our Hayes 489 students did so well. It's quite a list up there of getting first, second, honorable mention, third place. It's really amazing how talented and artistic students that we have, and to see that they're, if you look at the where they're from, it's every school. You know, we have all the schools that are involved in that. So we ended up having something that's really interesting, the Lego robotics competition at Fort Hays State University. Have Lincoln Elementary and Hayes Middle School participated. I found it amazing to see that there's 81 teams, there's 245 students that participated in that. I really feel like I missed out of not being there to see it. I would have really enjoyed that. We end up having Elaine Roletter, the Lincoln's principal, just identifying that it's at Lincoln they really try to encourage the students to be involved with science and technology and engineering and math, STEM, and this is one way that they're doing that. They ended up having Mindy Dreiling and also Regina Hammerschmidt. They wrote grants and was able to receive money from the Heartland Community Foundation and also the Dane G. Hansen Foundation to end up helping to pay for that, for those students to be involved. Middle school, Brad Moritz ended up having the robotics club do so well, placed first overall. They have the traveling trophy that they get to hold on to for a year. Sounds like they did excellent. They got the most overall points, and there was 15 other schools that they were competing, which was 34 teams. But really wonderful to have such a variety of activities that are going on, and our students doing so well in that. Wilson Warrior Kindergarten Career Day. It's great to get them as young as possible to be thinking about what they want to be in the future, and for those teachers and parents to be involved in trying to encourage the students and be involved with that. They had a great activity there at Wilson School, and this was just last week.
Any questions for John? Very good. Next item on the agenda is the report of the superintendent.
Yeah, it's a report, one piece that it's also a matter of spotlight. I've just got to end up sharing. Last week I was able to observe what Fort Hays State University does for the surrounding communities for third grade fitness. I was just impressed, very, very impressed that that the local college ends up planning it and having the students out there, college students that are running the different. And I've never been back behind that facility either. How much space? Mandy was out there too. My goodness, they have acres and acres to end up arranging this, and it was a beautiful day. So it was nice to end up seeing David out there, David Otley, the superintendent from Victoria. So we had Victoria kids, we had, I think it was Ellis kids.
Stockton, Quinter, Norton came as far as Norton.
Oh wow.
Victoria. Russell couldn't come.
They were signed up and 60 kids couldn't come because they couldn't afford a bus to get over. That was sad. So they had 300 kids, they would have had 360.
I bet Russ would have sent one over there for them.
Six schools as far as Norton.
It was just fun seeing the activities, and they really seemed to have a great time. There's such a variety. It was,
Well, and it was organized so well.
Yeah,
That whistle
it was
blew
really-
and the
it was
kids
really
moved. I
smooth.
mean, you would not have thought there were 300 kids out there because they were busy and on task.
Every 5 minutes they had whistles blow and they moved for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's amazing. They do a great job.
it was fun. It really was. And again, cooperation, collaboration with the college to be able to offer that. And I understand they've been doing that for a very long
He
time.
said he thought he had done it for 23 years and he thought it had been 25 years total. So,
Well, the sad part is, this year is the first year that the state was providing really no funds. And yet, they still chose to arrange it and put it on. So I think it was a fantastic event, and a big thank you to Fort Hays State University for that. The other item I wanted to share for report is just a little bit of a report on the standpoint of our the work for facilities. The last meeting that we had was of interest because we're really getting to that point of rounding the what the project might end up having possibilities of looking like. They're then working with numbers now, such as the price that it would cost to end up doing this project and this project. The interesting part at the last meeting was how big the number is that they start with, and then they're trying to whittle it down to a number that would be perhaps workable in this community. You know, that's something that they could end up selling to the community that they would back. In that process, when I say sell, we know that in doing this, bond issues are tied to property tax. Most of the time, you end up having the benefit of state aid, but in our case, we don't have that, so it really would be all property tax. We did have some help, a consultant that came in and was again suggesting we at least investigate the possibility of sales tax. It was investigated the last time as well. It could be city or it could be county. The county piece has been relayed. I've been able to talk to county commissioners, city commissioners, city manager, county manager, trying to at least have a conversation about what are the possibilities with that. The benefit of that is maybe twofold. And I don't know when we start really working on this, because we're really at the front end of it, but of getting people to understand that there could be a benefit of the mix, of having a property tax and a sales tax that helps with this instead of it completely being property tax. It is possible, but it's one of those things that's going to, it would take a number of different groups to be agreeable to that, of thinking that it's, the other piece is the benefit of a county is that it wouldn't just probably help, it wouldn't help just us, it would help Ellis, and it would help Victoria too, because it would be money that would go, it would be assigned to head count of the students in the schools, and that's how they would divvy up that particular money to the three different communities of Hays, Ellis, and Victoria. So that could be a benefit. Some people would view it that way. If you're looking at fairness of sales tax in this community of being spread, you know, to the county. I'm just sharing that because enough conversation has occurred that we're at that point of just probably getting it out to share that, of saying we're going to talk about it. And I don't know exactly to what the next step is in this process, but we have another meeting on the 16th, and the group we'll see what they really come up with a design or scope at this particular point. I definitely say the last couple meetings have been a little bit more engaging. I don't want to necessarily say entertaining, it's just engaging because of you've been working for a couple months of trying to put together ideas, and you're finally there where you have money and projects coming together to say, well, what can we do? And it's interesting when you end up, of course, you want it all, you know. It's and then you end up saying, well, we can't have everything. There's no way. So where do you start trying to whittle it down and get to a point that would be good for K through 12, you know, here for USD 489.
So on the 16th, will they talk about the tax issue as well?
I believe so. The intention is to do that at that meeting. Dustin Avey did come in and talk at a time previous, but if he's not here, I know the architects had talked to me and are saying that they will bring that up and talk a little bit more on it. It ties together. I mean, it ends up being, if anybody says, well, that's not it, it is. You have to have a strategy for the funding of it. That mechanism has to be there to really have a plan that has a chance of really working, depending upon what that total amount is going to be. So they're going to start meshing that all together at this point. And we did have some we have had individuals that come and sit to the side and observe. It's too late, of course. We've had 6 meetings, so it's too late for people to come and be part of the committee. They wouldn't be part of the committee, but they can certainly come and observe it. And we've had that happen at this point.
So are the numbers growing in those meetings? I mean, have you seen more?
Well, I wouldn't say, when I say there's just been a few that's actually observers. We've had a few the last several, but no, it's not a large number. Our number for the participants in the committee stay about the same at 20 to 25.
It's a good core group that's come consistently.
And that part's been really nice from the beginning of having the variety that existed. I mean, it's out of 20-some that come, you know, you have 3 that are teachers, a couple that are from Fort Hays. We have city personnel, we have parents, we have some that don't have kids in the school. You know, I mean, it's business. It's nicely mixed, and that was not our work of making that happen. You know, it was really just came together with that. So, and I think Lance has been to most of them. As an observer as well, sitting to the side. So, yeah.
I said Paul has come, I know.
Yeah, he doesn't stay though. He just
doesn't?
stays for a little bit and then goes. He says he has other meetings he's got to get to. Yeah, that's right.
Good. Any other questions for John? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And I do want to point out in personnel transactions, we do have a retirement, Joanne Jennings of 21 years as well. But entertain a motion to approve the board meeting minutes for April 24th, 2017, personnel transactions, approval of bills in the amount of $2,316,827.68, clerk's report, investment report, petty cash report, unencumbered cash balance report, the appointment of Faith Lockman as the district's CAPERS designated agent, and the approval of surplus items.
So moved.
Been moved by Board Member Waddell,
Second.
seconded by Board Member Adams. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is the 2017-18 school year calendar with early release days. And I believe we went over these. I don't think anything has changed on these?
Well, the one thing that did change was we did change the, they're still on the Wednesday, but we changed it from the first Wednesday of the month to the second. There's a reason for it. It has to do with, we have 2 days that we have trainings, that we have about 30 people that are going to be participating in, and it would be significant of trying to find, well, the substitute issue, and it just works better that they're present. So just changing those days works better with the calendar.
Yeah, and part of those people gone are going to training that they want to bring back to the building, so it
Right.
makes sense that the next week they have time in their buildings to share that, because obviously that's the point of the early release, is using it for different initiatives like that. So I'm glad that they caught those days.
The 2 dates was in November and in February. Those were the 2, but
Very good.
I think it was a simple switch. But it is one that we did change the calendar a bit, therefore feel that there really should be a vote that the board does approve that change on the calendar.
Entertain a motion to accept the 2017-18 school year calendar early release days as presented.
So moved.
Been moved by Board Member Adams, seconded by Board Member Lang. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is the fire alarm bid. John has some information on that.
Yeah, and I think that if need be, Rusty will be at the next meeting to answer questions that you would have, but it's pretty straightforward when you end up looking at the difference there of the bids from 4 different companies. One from Waukene, 2 from Wichita, and 1 from Ellenwood. And I think it's more a matter of you just glancing at it. If you have questions, that's fine. I'll make arrangements that Rusty's at the next meeting, but that's really...
Who have we used in the past?
Well, I don't know how far past you'd end up saying. I know BCS has helped us. I don't know if they've gotten the bid, but they definitely have helped us with different issues with the fire alarm in the past. Simplex Grinnell has helped as well. I don't know how far in the past you have to go with it. The one I don't know much about, and that would be Rusty in answering, is Fire Alarm Specialists Incorporated in Waukene, who may have the best bid, that way, but I don't know our past history of working with them. And no decision, of course, tonight, just a matter of seeing where we're at with it.
Very good. Next item on the agenda is the 2017 Lewis Field football agreement.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that you knew as well, this is, and the public as well, this is an annual process of having that contract. It is annual. It ends up being something that really has not changed. We end up having the contract, and then also it shows the list of the activities. I'm trying to. Oh, they're there. Yeah, a little bit further down. The contest there, and what's needed. But if there was any changes, I would identify them, but it's really seemingly the same as what we've used in the past. Yes, sir.
The only question I have, it's not really about the contract, but except the part where it does talk about following state, university, state, university rules. And it comes back to the issue that's out there is
We have to follow the university's rules. Yeah, I mean, and I know that's uncomfortable. What we're talking about ends up with the concealed carry. concealed carry is an issue that Fort Hays State is preparing for. They're even having their, when we had that nice hailstorm and rain and all that was going on, they had a session then that had a number of students in there, even braved the horrible weather to go to that meeting and listen to what's necessary. But in our particular case, in utilizing the facilities there, we would be governed by their rules, not ours. So,
We have a problem.
but I guess I'd say that's not different than walking into a grocery store. You know, I mean, it's the same rules there,
Right.
walking into a grocery store right now.
Kids to Wendy's and all that.
That's right.
It's not, but do we owe the parents some communication about that to let them know that this change, I mean, when we get to that point, this change has occurred and this is what it means for your students?
Yeah, it probably would have merit for them to be aware of it. I do think that that communication would probably make more sense right at the front end of the school year. Yeah, because the change is until July 1st. July 1st, yeah. So,
And I think any time that you're doing field trip, especially at the elementary school level, we're going to do additional communication.
yeah. Yes.
And if we have a problem, we should contact our state legislature.
Yeah, I really did think that there would be more conversation. I was surprised that it just never did regenerate, you know, with conversation on that. I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe it takes a year for people to be aware we don't like this, but I don't.
As far as on the field, and Josh, you actually could probably answer this also, is there, and maybe in years past, is there a reason? I mean, is it come down to like seating and things like that as to why we've never looked at using the fields at Hays High as far as for those games? Like in football and things like that? Is it the field? Is it, I know there was talk of a turf and things like that in the past, but
You've got a couple problems. You've got a track that butts up very close to the field, so there's some risk for injury in some different areas. You don't have the seating capacity set up out there. And then, when Cornelson first, how long has that been since Cornelson first came? Is that 7 years ago now? I remember there was a conversation about why not making it the spotlight at our high school. And to be honest with you, I don't know if there was ever a final verdict.
I'm just curious why we hadn't really looked into it with, I mean, especially if we're spending that every game and the other stuff, you know, if we could take and put that towards something that we own and do the other stuff
Right.
within X amount of years and pay it off and then really not have that expense every time and just,
Well, may I add,
We've got a
just,
second problem with the lack of practice facility also. So that field, when you can take the 2,400, I guess, reinvest it back into your field, but come mid-season, it's not in particularly very good shape. It wouldn't be a field that you would want to probably showcase for the other towns. I mean, I've played in places where they still have stickers, and we see them there every single year, but it gets pretty rough out there as far, because that's where they practice. Now, the JV games are held there. They are. That season's done a little earlier, I guess, before the season gets, I mean, they're done before postseason and playoffs and stuff, but, well, I mean, I think you bring up a good question.
or even if it's something where we could even do, you know, the main season there and do postseason at,
But I mean, you're looking at, you've got the seating issue, you've got bathroom facilities, potentially concessions.
it'd be very expensive, yeah.
And then the other issues you're talking about just with the field itself. So I think, I mean, I had heard, you know, that it was, they talked about it years back.
I remember
but
hearing about it way
was-
back, I just don't ever
it was
remember hearing it.
millions,
But the idea, I mean, your idea is solid, because we were hearing that in our group as far as facilities, and that was one that came up, as well as like the auditorium. I mean, I did go to the the choir last Thursday at the high school in the gymnasium, and totally amazed at what they did to transform that gym. And that had to cost. I mean, not a matter of just all the time parents put into it, but the amount of money, because that's professional equipment that they had hanging, and I mean, and that's donations. You know, the community is putting that money in, businesses, people who are donating it, and I guess they're doing it on a yearly basis there too. So the community is very generous. They're very generous in the ways they've been, helping and providing for in the last years. That's
Because we're at 9,600, and then if we have that second district game, we add the other 2,400 onto it. So we're at 2,400 a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the list of the football games down there.
mm-hmm.
What do we got? 5 or 6 this year?
There's 5.
5. So you got the 9,600 plus the 24 for the additional. We have 2 district games this year.
Mm-hmm.
And to think TMP pays it too. I mean,
Yeah.
much like we talked about in Master the Auditorium. I mean, if there could be something done from a community standpoint that the schools could use.
Yes, it definitely has possibilities, but
Because it's also a timing, I mean, it's a scheduling issue too. And that was why homecoming was an issue last year, I think. It's the homecoming fell on Oktoberfest. And Marty said it was because, football schedules
yeah.
between the 3 schools.
Well-
Fort Hays, TMP, and East High, but
And I find it really amazing, again, a compliment to Fort Hays State University of allowing the public schools, the private schools to utilize their facilities. It's actually, I don't think they really need the money that we're paying them. They're doing very well. It's more a matter that, it's more an issue of timing for them to go through the hassle and the headache. I would wager there's someone there that would say, I definitely give up the money we're getting just not to have to deal with someone coming in on a regular basis of using our facilities. So we are very fortunate of being able to constantly rely upon the local college's facilities.
I don't want to stress, but I mean, mine's nothing against Fort Hays. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
thankful that
Yeah,
they're doing that. I'm just,
and thankful that they kept the money
Yes.
the same.
yeah.
And the money
Yeah.
we're getting from each Schmidt for the concert was very reasonable.
Yeah.
So,
So we'll bring this back just for approval at the next meeting. That's, so.
Very good. Next item on the agenda, building use requests from outside organizations.
Yeah, there's a list that wanted to share as far as the different schools in which, as you go through it, you've been able to see it and what's up there, but, from 4-H to Boy Scouts to Fort Hays State University Nursing, Genesis Pure, Hays Community Theater, Hays Larks. I mean, there's quite a list that exists of utilizing, and a good number of them are waived, which they should be according to our policy. Some of them, they are charged, in some cases, but I think it was important that it's kind of strange to spin off of the last conversation, which wasn't really planned, but the utilization of Fort Hays State University, but at the same time, we have a lot of different organizations that do rely upon our facilities and rely on them in such a way that it doesn't cost them, in many cases, and if it does, in many cases, it's pretty reasonable. We end up having HRC cooking classes, you have Special Olympics, you have Twirl Academy, you have Elite Volleyball, you have Extension Office class. There's quite a variety of utilizing, and then when you really get to the point where those, reading through the list there, you have some that are dedicated on just a a regular practice process of using the gymnasiums. I know that it's recognized that we probably, especially the middle school, Craig would easily say we just couldn't survive. Well, I guess we could, but we'd have games going till late night of not utilizing the rec commission's gymnasium for basketball, for volleyball, because with one gym, you know, it just would go for when 7th grade was added 3 years ago, it just made things very challenging to try to schedule. But if you look at this, you'll end up seeing O'Laughlin, Lincoln, Wilson. You're talking about 66 nights of practice at Lincoln, 44 nights at Wilson, 22 nights of scouting group meetings. I'm trying to get across so that the board knows there's a lot of work that goes into trying to prep for that too and organize it so that the public schools is not just utilized by the students in those school hours. They're used very much so in the evenings as well, and even on the weekends. So Rockwell gets utilized. I think we're trying to make it utilize a little bit more too. KSB's had, I think, more meetings here than they have had in the past. But that's very advantageous to us of having meetings here instead of us not having to travel. You know, they could be somewhere else. They could just as well be at Russell or at Oakley, and I'd rather just come downstairs than have to travel to those locations for some of the meetings that we have. But any questions about this? That's just thought it would be very appropriate to try to press that too. That
How do we determine as far as which fees are waived, which ones aren't? Because I see like, for instance, here, like the Western Kansas Elite Volleyball Group, 74 different practices in various buildings, didn't pay for any charges. At Munger or any other elementary school, they only paid for 2 days of weekend custodial overtime fees.
Munger, we don't really charge anybody for utilization of Munger. They get scheduled quickly at Munger, I understand. Usually it has to do with organization that if they're making money, we charge them. You know, if it's a matter where it's something that benefits our students, even though it may not be a school activity, we try again. We have an outline. I never thought to put that in here, but we have an outline that Jen uses to try to. And we had the conversation too that we get requests months in advance to utilize a facility. And we have the principals who have recently told us, well, we just can't approve them that far in advance because we have first rights to it. And we should, you know, if there's some activity. So you have to get closer to that date to really know that that is a date that's available that we can, let someone else use, that we're not going to have a need of it at that time. So that's another difficult piece here, is just trying to work with the public so that they know that we'll work with you. You can end up using it, but we get first dibs on our own building. You know, it's that's the way it should be while we're working through it.
I was able to email you all the list that Jen uses for what we charge and the fee for each space.
Great.
The issue for the charging, though, has a lot to do with when they're using some of the facilities, there's electrical, but probably more than anything, it's a matter of custodial. You know, we want to make sure that custodians are on, if they're on duty during the week, that usually doesn't become an issue. But weekends, they need to pay for custodial, because we do not just allow anybody in on the weekends and just give them a key. We need someone there during that time. And so it can be more expensive on a weekend because of that.
questions on the building use request? Seeing none, move on to the next item, which is the Kansas Educational Risk Assessment Management Pool, or KERMIP. Tracy has some information for us.
Yes, 2 years ago, we joined the Kermit pool with a 2-year commitment. So that is ending June 30th. So we will be on an annual basis going forward. I've been very active as our district's representative with the Kermit group, and am just been very, very pleased. We've made so much progress, and I really just think it's a really good program. So anyway, the quote this year is $124,752 for our property casualty. And also there is a boiler component coverage of that also, which is $2,448 less than it was this current year. And it will just be for the 1-year commitment through June 30th of 2018. Any questions on the renewal? Pretty straightforward.
Deductible on this one.
It's $1,000 deductible.
Oh, I see it.
And then $5,000 on boiler.
And that's the same we've had.
Yes, that has not changed. Yeah. And the first year, the pool did really, really well. I don't have the numbers here with me, but there's a very, very good chance that we will be getting part of that money back. And then this year wasn't quite as good. We had some hailstorms and things like that in other districts that took that money from the pool. And anything that, all of our premium contributions go into one holding fund, and we will get back that money proportionately, probably about 5 years afterwards, making sure there's no further claims.
So we fulfilled our 2-year commitment.
Correct.
So we could go elsewhere if we wanted to.
Yes.
Did we get other bids?
I didn't. To get property bids, I mean, it's quite extensive work on our part, also on the insurance companies, because they have to go through all of our buildings and evaluate everything. You don't typically want to do that too frequently, or eventually they probably won't want to give you quotes anymore. But definitely something we should be looking at every probably 3 to 5 years.
And this one here is at least less than what it was last year, correct?
Yes. Yep, $2,400 less with the same coverage.
Okay, good. Any questions for Tracy on that? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the workers' compensation. I think Tracy also has some info for us on that as well.
Now, this one we did get quotes from United Heartland, who's our current carrier, and also KASB. Both of the quotes were lower than they were last year, but the low bid was United Heartland for $132,674, which is just shy of $14,000 less than it was last year. That is with a $2,500 deductible. And on KASB's bid, they did quote us for both the deductible and also the no deductible and the $2,500. And there was a difference of about $19,500 between those two amounts. And so I looked up what our deductibles have been paid this year, and it's been just over $11,000 we've paid for deductibles, but that is significantly helping our mod factor being lowered, that we're not paying for all those real small claims, that's not going towards our mod factor. So it's been very beneficial to have that. Plus it is cheaper. We are still saving money either way. So our recommendation is to go with United Heartland, the low bid of $132,674 for next year.
So do you feel, since we made that change with the deductible a couple years ago, is that the cause of our experience are going down, or are things better?
Things are better.
Okay.
Definitely. If you look at our claims history, the number of claims, the amounts of the claims, really the number of claims is what affects it the most. You can have 2 claims that are very, very expensive, and the company kind of throws those out because those are abnormalities. They're going to look at, are you having 15 claims or 50 claims? Because if you're having 50 claims, then obviously there's problems. So our number of claims have gone down significantly, and that has lowered our mod factor as well. I couldn't tell you proportionately which one it is. They both have helped, but we are definitely doing better, have fewer claims and lower amounts of claims.
And the better rate is because of that, right?
Right. And I did talk to one of the companies, and they said as soon as we get under 1, it's going to flip dramatically, but we're not quite there yet.
Keep in mind, putting that deductible in for $2,500 also makes a huge difference in the number of claims that we put in on that too. So that in itself, as far as the number of claims we're reporting, makes a big difference. So
But we do try, I mean, we report
Oh,
all
yeah.
claims.
Yeah, I'm
you
just
know,
saying though, as far
and
as that
then
going against the
our
mod
mod
factor
factor,
piece, yeah.
correct, right. But Assurance Partners, you know, has been tracking all this. They give us quarterly reports that we take to our safety committee that show kind of those trends and everything, and those are collecting all claims, whether they're up to the $2,500 deductible or not.
How do our trends look from the last 5 years, say? When you guys go back that far? I mean, when was the last time we were under 1?
It goes like this.
We
Long
showed that
time ago,
last,
Yeah, a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
showed
it
that at last, Josh was guessing it was 1.2. And it-
1.29.
Yeah.
That's right, it's a good guess. That's where we were as a school district.
That was the worst.
There's a bunch of local construction companies here that are .8s.
Yeah. That was the reason for all those changes a number of years ago, with everything from the safety committee to everything you can imagine. And since then, I think it's kind of been on a downward trend, so, which is good. It's heading in the right direction, but not where it needs to be.
Yeah, I can't find it offhand, but I think it was 4 or 5 years ago that it was almost at 1.3.
So on the option 2,
Yes.
when they talked about that, and I know I should remember this, the variable dividend. So option 1 with our guaranteed cost, $2,500 deductible, the dividends you're talking about is the reimbursement, correct? If you don't spend all that pool, it gets
No, this
prorated
is-
back to you, or is this something different?
This is completely different. This
Okay.
is outside of the permit pool. So this would be a dividend, and I think it's usually around 45 to 50%. If your claims are low enough, then they pay you back a dividend. I don't think we're anywhere close to that yet. Assurance Partners will be here on May 22nd for the meeting, so they could probably answer a little bit more about that. But when I talked to them last week, they did not believe, based on our history thus far, that we would probably qualify for those dividends, and then to pay more money for it and not get the dividends back, that just didn't make sense.
Okay.
So for 9,000, we're probably not getting anything back, so we're just spending
Probably not.
9,000.
Right,
Okay.
right. So yeah, we're recommending option 1 at the $132,674.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on workers' compensation for Tracy?
And,
I don't think we said that right off.
I think it should be acknowledged that when we implemented our safety program, that was, Tracy had just arrived on the scene.
Yeah.
All this was going down, and among all the things that she was being trained on, learning, being brought up to speed, she was saddled with initiating the safety program. And thank you.
Yeah.
Because we are going in a very good direction. And I know you initiated that, so thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, it was 2011, we were at .96, and then it climbed from there until we committed the safety committee in 2014, and it's dropped since then every year. Yeah, it's significant.
Nice having you respond.
I don't get to share good news very often, so it's really nice when I got
That's
to
at
do
least
back
one
to back.
insurance that's going down.
You're happy coming
Okay,
this
Dave.
meeting.
Happy jams.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the 2017-18 board meeting calendar.
If you look at it, I want to go month to month so that you have an idea of why it looks a little odd with some of them. July the 5th, the thought was, Wednesday, when do you have a Wednesday meeting? But I don't know if Monday the 3rd and definitely Tuesday the 4th. We did this last year, we did the day after 4th of July, which was on a Tuesday. So it was a Tuesday meeting. But that's the reasoning. It has to, we also tried not to have it. There was the thought of just do the organizational part at the end of June, because really we don't have a lot of business, and maybe we could just have the one meeting in July. But you have to have still the organizational meeting at the beginning of July. So that's why the 5th, maybe it won't be a very long meeting, because we would try very hard to arrange it to be very condensed, more for the organization piece, but that's the reasoning. So you share, we'll take each, that's where maybe I should go through all of it. And then the 24th, we're spacing it, trying to have it, and then spaced it for then August. August has some, the 7th and the 21st, at least they're on Monday. September is the 11th and the 25th. October has similarity. November, December, we had the same situation this last December of they were back to back, and not the best of situation where you have two meetings that is 1 week after the other, but you don't want to have it on Christmas. And if you went to the 4th, you'd still be back to back with the 27th, the one before that. January, again, the two different, the 15th and 29th, they're on Mondays. February, the Mondays there. March, we are staying away from spring break. That is identified as the week of the 19th, so it's not hitting that. April, I'm trying to think, why did we go with the 30th? That one I
For
forget.
bills.
What?
For bills.
Oh, for as late as possible on the
Right,
April?
yes, sir.
Okay. Trying to do that for the bills. And then May, the last few years, we've hit well, it's been the same thing. It's been the awards. That's why Luke's not here tonight, is to go to the high school awards. The business part of it, believe we could maybe handle it that just maybe one meeting, the 21st, might be able to handle the May, and for that matter, June as well. Maybe those are 2 months that we could do with just one meeting instead of having two. Now, with all of that, your thoughts as far as, go back to July, that'd be probably the messiest one of saying one on Wednesday night, on.
Is there a reason we couldn't do one meeting that month?
Well, our problem with it is we still have to deal with the bills. And so you're going to have one closer to the end of the month, and you have to have one at the front end of the month because of the organizational piece. So you're probably going to have two that month. One could be very short. It could be a 15-minute meeting and just plan that it's going to be that. But I don't think we tried to have July as well as just one meeting, but I don't see how we can get around that.
Is it the reason on that is it has to be the first day? Is there a reason we don't just do it on the 10th? Skip a week and then do the 24th?
The organizational meeting needs to be as early in the month as possible
that's
to identify the president and. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For signatures and things of that nature.
Yeah, technically yeah. Please share, if there's nothing to share right now, that's fine. We won't act on it until the next meeting. But let me know if you have any concerns or something that comes up that we didn't think of and needs to be considered.
I understand May, these 2 weeks are going to, that would fit where we're at. And June, what's part of the reason we wanted Tommy to just not provide enough business?
Just the conversation of saying maybe it's not, business-wise, not in session with, school at that point, and maybe we can handle it with one meeting instead of two. There was nothing else behind that other than just considering the lighter months within a full school year, and that may be the lighter. Who knows?
Very
We could be very wrong when we roll around to the June and end up having to have a special board meeting. But I'm just saying that was the idea behind it.
Any other questions on the board meeting calendar? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is discussion by board members and agenda requests.
Just, Nick, you mentioned the dinner show.
Yeah.
Thing there. And more, I'd say, as a parent who's been going to these things for 20 years now, it scared me when I heard that. I've had kids in Hay schools for 20 years. Is that I just want to go on the record here, compliment our music and art faculty of, as to those that may not be inclined to athletics, they are coaches, they're excellent at how to bring those kids together to perform. So the last few weeks of going to state contests, of course, travel around to see where our kids are, where my kid was, but always impressive what our music and arts people do. We hear a lot about their roles, but the energy in bringing them together as a team is just fantastic. And if it exhibits anything just like any other not extracurricular, I've already heard you say, co-curricular activities, what I meant to say, is these are the life skills where the kids get to take and practice, put what they've learned in school, and how they've learned to work with each other do it. So kudos to all the co-curricular activities we do. And I was just reminded that as I watched the chamber singers all week last week.
You know, Paul, and it's unfortunate we are having this board meeting tonight because we walked through the gym after a meeting at Hayes High, and just to see from the metal projects to the woods to the artistic to the, you know, even in
Clay.
English
Hopefully you
class,
get
the
out there.
clay, the pottery, it's amazing. And then for me, knowing some of those kids and where they were in middle school and seeing where they are, then that's really why it's so important that we have not just the athletics, but all the others to really tap into everyone's talent. So something to see. Our kids do an amazing job.
It's humbling to see some of that.
It
you
is.
know, as a
High school
as a
does
grown-up,
it.
you walk through there, you're like, these are children. These are still children that are accomplishing this level of work, be it a drawing with a piece of chalk or a gun cabinet. I mean, it's just,
Yep.
it's amazing. It definitely humbles me.
It is, and I commend Hayes High for, you know, displaying that, because taking the time, it's important to get parents in to see that, so.
Well, and I would say, Paul, the fun part of being in a new community, of the school districts that I've been in, I got a ticket. I wanted to go to that show. I went on Thursday, but I was not. I had no conversation with anybody ahead of time and had no clue what I was getting into. And to come in there and going, this is the gym, you know, it was just completely, it didn't look like a gym in any way, and it was a great meal, and they must have had 45 songs, and a good majority of them were solos, you know, where you had that many kids that had prepared. I mean, I have never sat through that kind of entertainment, vocal entertainment by high school before.
Be sure you go tomorrow night to the music concert. Other parents will say.
I will add as well that I've put my application in for school board again. I guess I'll throw my hat in the ring for another four rounds. I am proud to say, though, looking at the time, though, in the 4 years, we've come a long way from 11 to 12 o'clock board meetings to about an hour now. So we're heading in the right direction.
Well, and shaving off meetings. Now I'm leaving.
The filing deadline is June 1st at noon at the Ellis County Clerk's Office on Main Street for anyone that would be interested in filing for the school board.
So,
Yeah, a good reminder. Thank you for mentioning that, Lance.
and I don't think we need an exec session tonight, do we? Okay. Nobody has anything else? Meeting's adjourned.
Nice.
Paul, you can get your.
Yeah, the display's still out, huh?
Certificates.